You are now tuned in to Peach State TV, where any gym is home. www.peachstatehoops.com. Enjoy the show. And we're back with another episode of InsideTheJumpOffPlus.com, Today's Show, National Director of Scouting, and the man, Keil Moore, right here. I'm Brandon Clay. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about 2011 recruiting as it starts to shape up. Obviously, some kids have been off the board for a while. There are some recent commitments, and we're starting now here in the fall. This first week of September, a lot of kids will be actually visiting places on Labor Day weekend, or even over the next couple of weeks, football games. There'll be some kids, I'm sure, that stretch it all the way into the latter part of October. We'll talk about a couple of classes that are starting to take shape. We'll talk about some recent commitments, and then we'll talk about some kids that are left on the board. Keil, talk to us a little bit. Let's start with Stanford out there on the West Coast. I think they've done a great job of locking in on some kids, especially with the fact that you've got an early app there and get your application in pretty early. They've been able to establish a pretty good foothold on this 2011 class already.
Well, you know, they got some good early commitment. I say early, but some recent commitments from Camp and Greenfield. Yep. Jasmine Camp from Georgia, Taylor Greenfield from Iowa. Backing that up with Amber Orange from Texas. You know, they've been able to do a good job of figuring out, you know, everybody's kind of criticized them for not being as athletic in the backcourt as some of the other schools that are competing for national championships. So with this group, especially with Camp and Orange, they're picked up in athleticism. They also picked up with some people that can score one-on-one in the half court as well.
No, I agree, man. I love Camp, and obviously we've been watching her here since, seems like forever, but I remember coming to Fab 5 camp as a rising sophomore and just thinking, man, this kid can really do it. And, you know, obviously when we talk about her combined with Amber, it just gives you two real different dimensions. Yeah, also agreed there. And then once again, Samuelson and Greenfield, you know, both giving you shooters. But I think Greenfield, a lot like Megan Buckland, who's been out injured, but Greenfield is actually more of a kid who can knock down the three, but gives you some versatility in that mid-range game. And I think a lot of people, because of her frame and the way she looks, want to label her as a spot shooter, where I think that's going to be more of Samuelson's role, where Greenfield's going to kind of give you an in-between kid, and they're still in the race for a couple other kids, one of those being the aforementioned Logic that we mentioned in yesterday's video. So it does, unless they're putting it together pretty nicely. And what do you think about UCLA, man?
UCLA's done a great job of getting kids, you know, keeping some kids home and Boykin,
yep,
and Harvard's, and then, you know, they went out and they got.
No, you're absolutely right, man. Between you know, like you said, Justine Hartman, who actually had decommitted from Boston College, originally committed there, was out this summer with ACL, and then Sheila Boykin. They've done a good job right away with two kids right there that are going to help in the post. And then also Casey Swain from out there in California that plays for West Coast Premier. So you look at her transitioning. Swain is a kid that, you know, we're looking at as a 3-4 kid right now, but has really made a nice transition over the past 12 months into being more of that 3 who has some 4 quality and can play that at times, but really might be a primary 3. And then once again, going back to Boykin and Hartman, now you're showing up that front line. They've done a really good job really quick out there in Westwood, man. And turning our attention, looking, obviously we've talked Stanford, we've talked UCLA. I know Duke obviously was a group that got out to an early start, and North Carolina as well has got 4 people on deck. You know, talk to us a little bit about what's happening here on the East Coast with those couple of schools, man.
Well, you know, Duke went out, they got Whitney Knight with her length and athleticism. Knight's a kid that, you know, we've watched kind of grow and progress over the past 3 years, and you always see her and you always want a little bit more out of her because she has so much untapped potential. Yeah. So if they can get her in and, you know, get her on the weight program and get her to start playing hard defensively, and her ability to kind of orchestrate and play that point forward and handle the basketball, she can do a lot for him. And then Kalia Johnson is a kid that really had a very solid summer. I saw her at Duke camp, and she just seems at this point in her development to really want to show everybody how good she can be, and she's just always playing hard. You know, she's going to guard you. She's going to put some points up on the board. She'll hit an open jump shot. So there's a bright future with those two adding to their backcourt on top of a #1 class in the country. And then you transition over to North Carolina and what they were able to do. You know, you talk about getting those, you know, the Roundtree kid from Jacksonville. You know, that's a kid that fits in so nicely to what they like to do in terms of pressing. You know, she plays for that Potter's House Jacksonville Lady Jaguars duo program, where, you know, they press for however long the game is. If the game is an hour long, if the game is 15 minutes, if the game is 5 seconds, they're going to pressure you, and they're going to get after you. So, you know, you add that, the Adams kid from Chicago is going to be able to shoot it, and give them a little different type of vibe than they've had in recent years. You know, we hope Buckland gets back to where she used to be. Megan Buckland out of North Carolina. That's another prospect that should be able to press and do some things with her versatility.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And like I said, I think, you know, the Buckland thing, kind of like the Greenfield thing, gives you a kid who can knock down the three, but also do some things in the mid-range. I want to make sure we mention, too, Amber Henson in that Duke class. You know, her brother John right now is right down the street in North Carolina, so a little in-house rivalry there. But, you know, another kid, she was actually in the 3-on-3 games there in Singapore where they took the bronze and just does a lot of different things. And if her and Knight both can kind of get that ball rolling, both are, without a doubt, you know, top 10, top 15 type talents, you know, in terms of the skills that they have, and just being able to put all that together as they continue to mature, you know, on the floor is only going to help Duke in terms of wanting to get a little bit deeper in the tournament and make that national title run. Let's move a little bit back toward the South here. Talk to us about Tennessee and the job they've done, especially over the past week, man.
Yeah, Tennessee, you know, you talk about Sierra Burdick committing when she did, you know, almost last year this time, committing and making that pledge. And, you know, one of the big things when you get a kid like Burdick to commit is she was one of those connected kids. She's kind of a connector in that, you know, all the kids seem to gravitate towards her. If you're in the gym with her, she's the kid that's always smiling and everybody, you know, seems to like her a lot. So it was no surprise when she committed. She said, I'm going to help. You know, she kind of funny that Pat Summitt needs help recruiting, but she said, I'm going to help bring in some of my friends to the 2011 class. And, you know, she put her money where her mouth is, and Ariel Massengill out of Bolingbrook, Illinois, decided to come and play with her buddy.
Well, it's neat, too. We talk about, you know, Elizabeth Williams still considering Tennessee as an option. You know, she'd actually scheduled 5 visits. North Carolina's another school that's in that mix. So obviously, yeah, you know, where she decides to go is going to be a big domino in terms of maybe where a couple other post players, Kia Stokes, kids like that. You know, a post player who's off the board is Alice Cohen, Northwestern. You know, looking to replace Amy Jaskin, the size that she's brought to the roster. Cohen will be able to do that for them. Right down the street there in the city, you know, Shanice Jenkins will be able to come in for Doug Bruno there at DePaul, another top 50 kid right there in Chicago, Northwestern and Evanston, about 30 miles north. So, you know, got both of those covered. In Virginia, Debbie Ryan did a good job. Got a big piece, obviously looking to add maybe Elizabeth Williams to that piece, but talk to us about Bria Smith, man.
I think Smith is the perfect piece to fill the, you know, obviously the shoes that Monica Wright, you know, you got that year gap, but Smith will come in and offer them some of the same type of things with her. You know, she's the type of kid that always wants to win a game. She's the type of kid that will get on the floor with that kind of star persona, but will still do the dirty work things. You know, you talk about China Crosby in the backcourt with her, where you got 2 New York kids with some toughness and some swagger about them. It should be, you know, Debbie Ryan should have a lot of fun with those two.
No, that's all right. Well, a Georgia native, Sydney Wallace, actually is visiting Virginia over Labor Day weekend, taking her official there. We'll also take one to Florida, and then Georgia and Georgia Tech both will receive officials as well. So, no, this looks great. I can't wait to sit back again here on signing day, if not before then, and kind of chop it up and see kind of what's going on and how it all kind of finished out. But we're excited as always. Thanks for tuning in. Any Gym is home.